Assyria. I will bring them to Gilead and Lebanon, and there will not be room enough for them. God here is giving us some illustrations. By the time of Zechariah, we recognize, of course, chronologically speaking, that the people of Israel have been out of Egypt for a long, long time, right? I mean, he's not literally saying to Zechariah, I'm going to bring my people out of Egypt. They've been brought out of Egypt generations and generations and generations prior. So he's not literally talking about taking them out of Egypt. But to the people of Israel, what does Egypt symbolize? Not home, but what? Slavery. Egypt symbolizes oppression. Egypt symbolizes slavery. Egypt is a picture of cruel taskmasters and lack of freedom and lack of liberty and being oppressed. Another illustration there, he says, and I will gather them from Assyria. Again, by the time of Zechariah, he's not literally bringing them back from Assyria. What's Assyria supposed to mean to the people of Israel? The Assyrians were the people who came to their land, conquered them, and drug them out of their land. The Assyrians represent being defeated, conquest, exile, ripped from your homeland, ripped from your society, torn from your culture. So God here is talking to his people and he says, y'all aren't home. You aren't at home. You don't have the sense of home. You don't have the security, the identity, the spiritual, relational, emotional connection to home presently. You're in Egypt. Not literally. They weren't literally within the borders of the nation of Egypt. But they were oppressed. He said, you're in Assyria. Not literally in the borders of Assyria, but you're a people living an oppressed life. You're a people living under evil taskmasters. You're a people who have had their culture, their religion, their identity taken from them. Egypt, Assyria, symbols of oppression, symbols of suffering. And then he says, read on, I will bring them to Gilead and Lebanon. I will bring them to Gilead and Lebanon. If you're like me, there's really only one thing that you know about Gilead. I would play this little game, but you might not get it right, and then I would be embarrassed. So I'll just tell you. The only thing that I think of with Gilead is an old song that we used to sing in church. There is a balm in Gilead. And I have to tell you that for the longest time growing up, I thought it was bomb, and I had no idea why we were celebrating that somewhere in this land called Gilead, there was this bomb that we were supposed to be so happy about until someone corrected me and said, no, you dummy. It's a balm. It's to cure your hurt. Gilead was known for this ointment that was used to treat injury, wounds, hurt. Gilead is a symbol of restoration. Gilead is a picture of healing. Gilead is a picture of the good physician bringing healing to his hurting people. Lebanon. Unfortunately, in today's context, Lebanon brings a different kind of picture. But the picture of Lebanon that we have in the Bible is a picture of plenty, a picture of beauty, a picture of serenity. It's your beach, Megan. It's this idyllic kind of picture. When the people in that time talked about, what we should do, we should go to Lebanon. It was like us saying we should go to the beach. It was like Gus, we should go to the woods. We should go to the mountains. Take a picture of an idyllic scene that's filled with peace and serenity and beauty and natural wonder. That's the association of Lebanon. In this little verse, God is compassionately looking down on his people and he says, you're living like oppressed people. You're living like a people under tyranny. You're living like a people who are under an evil overlord. You're not living free. You're living like a people in exile. You're living like a people far from home without a sense of identity. You're not living in the way that we would say, being at home. And God says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring you healing. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring you serenity. And in this little verse, we see so much of the beautiful, compassionate love that God has for His people. One more thing in terms of context that I want to hit on this particular verse. There are really three phrases that make up this verse. What they will be brought back from, Egypt, Assyria. What they will be brought to, Gilead, Lebanon. And then look with me at that last phrase. And there will not be room enough for them. I don't know about you, but I look at that and I go, well, that's not good, right? I mean, in our context, when we say there will not be room enough for them, we think, oh, I'm not going to have a place. There's going to be too many. There's going to be so many that I'm not going to have a place. I'm going to be crowded, and I'm going to be, it's going to be oppressive in all the number of people. But that's not at all what He means. That's not what He means. He doesn't mean that there won't be enough room for the people. What He's talking about, there won't be enough room for all the blessings He has in store. It harkens back to a common thread that is woven through the pages of the Old Testament. Malachi picks this up in Malachi chapter 3. And God says to the people, ask me, come to me. It's all in the context of generosity and living a generous life. But He says, come to me and see that I will open the storehouses, plural, storehouses. I will open the storehouses of pleasure and pour out on you blessing. And what does He say? So much that there will not be space to contain it all. God says, I have blessings in store for you that are so great, you can't even contain it. You can't even imagine all the blessings that I want to pour out on you. So when you hear this, and Zechariah says there won't be room enough for them, he's not talking about the people. He's not saying there won't be room for the people. He's saying there won't be room for all the blessings I have in store. God says, you're not at home. I want to make you at home. And I'm going to bless you so richly that you cannot imagine. Your house cannot contain it. Your life will not be able to accept and engage with all the blessings that I have in store for you. Those two phrases that talk about where He brought them back from and where He's bringing them to share a similar semantic pattern. I will bring them back. I will gather them. Even that shows us something about God. Shows us something about what He's saying right here. First of all, He says, I will. I will. God is saying to the people, I'm not waiting for you to find your way back. God's not saying to the people, I'm not waiting for you to turn and move back. I'm not waiting for you to change. God says, it's mine. I will be the one who brings you healing. I will be the one who brings you peace. I will be the one to lead you out of tyranny. I will be the one to lead you out of oppression. This reminds us that the battle is not ours to fight. The battle belongs to the Lord. 2 times in this little bitty verse, God reassures the people, the work of bringing you home, God says, is my work. I will provide it. When you find yourself hurting, when you find yourself oppressed, when it doesn't feel like home, our natural tendency is, I've got to fix this. I've got to do something. I've got to change something. I've got to work on something. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes we do need to change. The Bible is replete. We cannot walk down a bad path and expect a good destination. Right? We know that. But God is saying, There are some things that are outside your power alone to do. And God is saying, that's my job. I know where you are. I know how you're feeling. And I am the one who will bring you back. I am the one that will gather you up. The reason I think this is so important is because the modern mentality is so independent-minded, so independent in spirit. It's so self-determined. We have this American pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of mentality that says, I can fix it, I can do it, I can pilot my ship, I can command my life, I will make this work. And God's up there going, good luck. Good luck with that. But anytime you're ready, I'm right here. And I can make it work. The other thing it says to me is that He doesn't wait for the people to change before He blesses them. He blesses them, and it brings about change. And the same thing is true for us today. He says, I will. Look at the next phrase. Bring them back, gather them. Luke chapter 19 and verse 10. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. Jesus came on a rescue mission. We celebrate the consummation, the fulfillment of that rescue mission today. And Jesus' whole mission was to come into our brokenness and bring us out of it. To come into our hurt and heal it. To come into our loneliness and provide companionship. To come into our lost state and bring us direction. He's the one who pursues. He's the one who gathers. He's the one who brings back. He's the one who restores. John 10:16. In the middle of a long, extended conversation about Jesus as the shepherd, the good shepherd. You know, the sheep know Him. He's the sheep pen, and the sheep won't follow another's voice. He has this line where He says, I have other sheep, and I must bring them also. We are those other sheep. I don't know what your genealogy is, but I would hazard a pretty good guess that none of us can trace our family line back to Abraham. We are the other sheep. When God is talking to Zechariah, through Zechariah to the people, He's talking to His people, His nation, His chosen race. Well, that's not us. And Jesus says, I took the mission of God in Zechariah to bring healing to the oppressed of God's people. And Jesus said, I expanded that to all people. Zechariah says, God's coming to bring restoration to an oppressed people of my people. And Jesus says, I'm expanding that mission so that it goes to all people. Jen?
Technically, Jesus can't trace them back to
Yeah. Yeah, it is true. The genealogy has gotten a little bit tough since Matthew chapter 1, right? Not quite as clear and cut and dry as it once was. Like the shepherd who refuses to leave even one sheep behind, God is not content with partial restoration. God is on a mission to bring all people home. Another thing, that third phrase, I will bring out, I will gather, and then He says, I will bless. That third phrase is an interesting one because He doesn't say, I'm going to bring you out so that you can survive. He doesn't say, I'm going to bring you out so that you can get by. In John chapter 10 and verse 10, the verse that launched this entire series of lessons, one of my favorite verses of all time, Jesus said, I came that you might have life. How? Abundant, full, complete. Jesus didn't say, I came so that you could get by. I came so that you could survive. I came so that you could hold on with tenacious grip this terrible, horrible existence that you have right now, so that someday, when this miserable world comes to an end, you can finally have something good to look forward to. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say that at all. And I think sometimes we as Christians miss that. Because I think so oftentimes what we think is that this life is a miserable, terrible existence that we just try to scrape through until we can get to heaven and have some really good times finally. That is not what he said. And my friends, there is no way in the world we're going to attract the world with a good news that this life is terrible, but there's good stuff coming. Because the good news of Jesus is there's good stuff now. And there's even better stuff coming. And all the way back in the days of Zechariah, God was planting that seed that life is a blessing. God has blessings for us now. God has happiness for us now. God wants us to feel at home now and in a way that we can't possibly imagine. More full, more complete, more beautiful in eternity than we could possibly even guess. He didn't say, I'll bring you back to survive. He said, I'm going to bring you back and the blessings are going to be so great. You're not going to have enough cabinets to put them all in. Let me just clarify something. We're not talking about physical blessings here. I hope I don't have to explain that. We're not talking about prosperity gospel. We're not talking about, put your hand on the TV screen and $1 million will fall in your bank account silliness. We're not talking about that. That's not what God's talking about. What God is talking about are the true, meaningful blessings of life that are so far beyond material possessions that it almost doesn't even merit discussion. It's not minimal restoration. It's abundant restoration. The kind of restoration that God is promising is the very thing that they're lacking. What they're lacking right now is identity because they're living like exiles. What they're lacking right now is liberty and freedom because they're living like slaves. And God says, those are the things I'm coming to bring you. That's the bounty that I want to pour out upon you. And this idea of so much more than we could possibly imagine is something that's all through the pages of Scripture. Joel chapter 2 and verse 25 is a real low point in Israel's history. A really dark time. It's been bad. Verse 25, God says, I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten. God acknowledges how hard it is. And he says, you know what? I'm going to make up for all that. As bad as it's been, that's how good it's going to be. As low as you've been is how high you're going to be. Ephesians chapter 3 and verse 20. He just sums it up. Paul just puts it down on the low shelf that even I can pick it up. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than I can think, than I can imagine, than my creativity could possibly endeavor to bring forth. God can do so much more. Oppression, slavery, to freedom and beauty, and thriving in ways that we can't even possibly imagine. Another quick point, and then we're going to get to some discussion here. I know I've talked a lot here at the beginning, but I've got some opportunity to hear from you. God kind of plays a little bit with geography here. We've already established they're not literally in Egypt. They're not literally in Assyria. They're not literally going to Gilead. They're not literally going to Lebanon. But they're also not going back. And I think that's important. Because God doesn't here say, I'm going to bring you back to what you were. I'm going to bring you back to where things used to be. He says, I'm bringing you to a new place. And I think this is also something that we as modern day Christians need to grapple with. I'm getting to an age where I say phrases like, back in my day, that I swore I would never say. I'm finding myself at a stage of life where phrases like good old days actually conjure up images. Some of you are smiling because you're there. You see, I don't think that what God is saying here is that I'm going to bring you back to a past time. As Billy Joel famously said, the good old days weren't always good and tomorrow ain't as bad as it seems. There's a reality in which, for us to constantly be pursuing what was, robs us of the blessings God has in store for us future. Let me say that again, because I think that's really important. Sometimes we get so wrapped up And we've got to get back to how things were. And God is going, guys, it wasn't that great then. And what I've got in store for you is so much better. But we are so resolute and stubborn, we want to get back to that. Well, the old saying, you can't step twice in the same stream. You step in this water, and by the time you step in it again, the water you stepped in is somewhere down there. This is new. This is new. Experience the new. And I think that's what God is saying here. God doesn't say, I'm going to bring you back to some glory day. I'm going to bring you back to how things used to be. He's like, I'm looking forward to what I have in store for you. And I think the good news there is that if we are stuck in I got to get back to what I'm thinking it used to be like mentality, even if we arrive at that, we've missed out on what it is that God had in store for us ahead. God's saying, don't work counter to my plans. Work in concert with the direction I'm taking you. He didn't promise to take them back. He did promise to take them better. And we should want that as well. Home. This whole idea of feeling like you belong. Feeling like you have identity. Feeling like you have camaraderie. Feeling like you're understood. You're accepted. I've already said it twice, at least, in this little time together. But for me, so much of home is the place I don't have to try to be something else. I can walk in my house with all my faults and foibles. Everybody in there knows. Everybody's aware. And they're okay with it. That doesn't mean I shouldn't try to improve, and I do every day. It doesn't mean I want to be a better version of myself every day. But it does mean I don't have to get better to be accepted. It means I'm loved and supported as I try to get better. You see the difference? I mean, seriously, do you see the difference? Because that's huge. It's not that I have to get better so I can be loved. It is that I am loved and I am supported in my attempt to get better. And what a profound difference that makes. And to me, that's home. And that's what God is trying to help us to understand through the words of Zechariah. God's people are at a new era. They're on the doorstep of a new opportunity. They have the possibility of stepping into a new experience. And I don't think it's any different for us today. I think those same words could be spoken into our lives with the same kind of profound impact. Are you living in a life that feels oppressive? Are you dealing with hurt? Are you struggling with disappointment? Egypt? Assyria? Are you hungering for and longing for a new sense of wonder? A sense of purpose, a place of connection? Gilead, Lebanon? I will bring you there, God says. I will gather you here, God says. And I'll give you blessings that you can't imagine. Let's talk for just a second. We have a few minutes here before the bells are going to get us. What to you are the biggest qualities, virtues of belonging? Let me rephrase my own question. Hold on. What do we at MCOC do well to help you belong? What do we need to do better?
Accept us as we come in, however we are.
We come in however we are. Yeah. I love that. I really do. I've been here 15 years. You guys know me by now. You get it. And I feel loved. I agree, Jen. Beautiful thing. Yeah, right.
I mean, I've went to like a lot of different churches, and to be honest, like I absolutely hated all of them and was very anti-church. I've had this discussion with you until I came to this church, and so it's probably not very constructive, but like I think that this is the most welcoming, and this is home for us for sure, because I've never found a church that I was even comfortable in at all, ever. So I like how our church, I don't think that like when you or Bishop or any people that get up here, whether it's communion or whether it's you're doing a sermon, I like personally how I've never heard you say anything that I can't go into my Bible and find. I've never heard you say something that was like a perception that wasn't backed up by the gospel. And I've been in other churches where that was the case, or maybe that was just my interpretation of what they were doing, but yeah, I've never been to a church that does a better job.
Yeah.
Because I came into going to church being somebody that had a very bad opinion about church. Had tried it and didn't think that it was for my family.
Ryan, in our conversations, I've just been so blessed by your willingness to share kind of your story, your journey, and how encouraging it's been for me. And I say to people, we are a place where if you have left kicking and screaming, try this. I believe very strongly, and I say all the time, that if you came to a service and you weren't greeted by 5 people, you came in late and left early, and probably had to sneak past the people in the lobby, because that's true. I believe this is a church that is very welcoming, and I was the recipient of that. I didn't contribute to that. That was this culture before I came here. The very first time I walked in here, I felt that, and I have enjoyed that, but it is not something that I have done. And the other thing you said, if you ever hear any of us say something that's not directly from Scripture, I know you, and you'll bring it, and I thank you for that. Somebody else? Yes, please.
I'm not here all the time.
Yep.
I grew up in church, and I loved where I grew up and the church I grew up in. And this reminds me of that. I mean, they are very welcoming. I'm not here to Sunday certain times because I live in Indiana. But I love this church.
We're always glad to
I
meet
wish
you.
I could find this church at my,
I've had people tell me that moved away. They're looking for
I
something.
mean, ever since the first time I came here, I've always said I really like the church. I love it.
And that means a great deal.
And I love everything you say, I really pay attention to what you say, and it really makes a difference.
Well, we're glad that that's serving you, and we're always excited when you're here. It's a blessing to us. I want to close. Our time is up, but let me end on this little note here. And it's not a little note in terms of importance. It's a small statement, but it's a big statement. MCOC doesn't exist for y'all. It blesses us, but it's not here for us. And just like a blessing that is kept to oneself is in some ways a wasted blessing, if what God is doing here is not being presented out there, then what He's doing here is lacking its true impact. So if it does feel like this is a place where God has invited you to belong, we should have a deep motivation to make sure that all the people that we know in this community that don't feel like they belong, don't know that we're so great, but know that God here is doing great things, and that God is great. And we want to help people know that. Egypt, Assyria, to Gilead, Lebanon, with blessings beyond what we can imagine, and an opportunity to share those blessings with a world that desperately needs it. Let's take that with us this week. Thank you so much, guys.